Good morning. Good morning. Sorry I'm late. I didn't have any choice in the matter. Oh gosh, and I can't see a thing. Hold on. There you are. Oh, Letty. Yes, Letty, the power is back on. It seems that ComEd does work on Saturdays, even though it's a non emergency thing. For the last few months, they've been working on my road out here. Well, they decided to move some electrical poles. Only um, ComEd decided to do it on a Saturday morning, my Saturdays. So, for those of you that are watching the rewind, that's what all this is about. My power was out for the last 2 hours, and well, actually, since 9 o'clock. So, about the last 2 hours and some. But what I have for you today is important, and I wanted to make sure that I got here and at least recorded this so that you could watch it later. So, um, out there in the world, you hear people asking all the time, can I sew on leather? Can I embroider on leather? Depends on the leather, actually. Um, One thing that I would suggest is not to use suede. I don't know if how much understanding you have between the different grades of leather. There's tooling leather, which is really thick and really hard. And the idea with that is that you use tools to carve out the elements in your for your design on your leather. And then there is the leather that you see people use for, or you see companies use for, like vests and bags, saddlebags. That's, this is it's kind of stiff, but it's, doesn't have a lot of stretch to it, and that's good. Hello, Frank. Frank, this better hour for you? Yeah, I arranged that whole electrical thing for you. Yeah. So, anyways, this leather is doesn't have a lot of stretch to it. But if they were to split off this outer layer so that you had suede, this would stretch terribly. It would be, oh gosh, I don't even think I have anything I can compare it to. Suede is too stretchy. It also will grab your needle and cause your looping and your nesting, and so avoid the suede if you can, unless you turn it over and you use the suede side that also has a smooth side. That smooth side is going to help act like um, a stabilizer. Okay. Good morning. Good morning from the TexMac booth at Graphics Pro. Is this Renee? It's good to see you, Renee. I'm glad, maybe, it's a good thing that there was a slight delay. So, yeah, you want to not use tooling leather and not use suede. But the answer is yes. Yes, you can embroider on leather. There was some question about how dense you can go before you perforate so much that the piece just automatically just pops right through. Well, that is a good question. And because my friend Frank here has a leather project that he's working on, I volunteered to do some testing to see how it works. Because, leather can be pretty expensive. So, where did I get my leather? Well, Renee, it's good to see you. Where did I get my leather? Well, Amazon. What can I say? You can buy 3 pounds of scrap leather, which is usually pieces about this size. Still functional, still usable. You can make small little things out of this. You make a little coin purse. But anyways, 20 bucks bought me 3 pounds of scrap leather. Okay, so what did I do with the scrap leather? Well, I put it in the hoop. Frank sent me his file because, there's no sense in testing a file if it's not the file that he needs tested. So I didn't test the whole thing. I just took an element from Renee. It's so good to see you. You go out there, you tell those people that I said that machine is wonderful. They should not walk out of that building without a machine. That's just my opinion. I love my happy. Okay, so like I said, I took an element of Frank's file, and he had a couple of different ideas about what to stitch or how to stitch, what type of stitching to use, because, again, we're all concerned about that whole question about perforation. So let me see if I can find what I'm looking for. All right, so we're going to share the screen here. You ready? Ready, ready. All righty. So this is the element that I took from his file. And like I said, he had different three different stitch types that he wanted to use. Let me see if I can enlarge this for you. Does that help? He had a fill stitch, a single run. This is a spiral setting that's available. It's an element available with Wilcom. And then I took his single run and I made it a triple run just to bold up that stitch line some. And as you can see, it's stitched out. It's stitched out really nice. Let me come back up here. Oops, there we go. Okay, I want you to try to see this. Can you see this? I at first thought maybe the stitch angle might be a little off on this filled stitch. Okay, but you can see that the running stitch and the spiral stitch, even the triple run, it's not poking through. Oh yeah, here, I did use a stabilizer. I used a cutaway. On some of these I even used, because it was a smaller piece, I even used some adhesive, some spray adhesive. And we'll talk about that too. But anyways, it worked. This is, I used a double tatami underlay just to give, a little bit more loft, because I have a contrasting color contrast here. I have a white and a dark. So really light, really dark. I wanted to make sure that I had the coverage without increasing the density. So this is also just a .4 density. Nothing too dense, just your standard 40 weight thread with your standard 40 density. Okay. The stitches, the running stitches, are all default settings. Nothing special done with it. Just your standard default settings. Okay, so wait a minute. There's no satin in here. What if you wanted to do a satin stitch? Because satin stitches are generally denser. Have Frank was saying that he was worried about the triple stitch cutting it out, but like I said, no cutout. It didn't pop out, and of course, like I said, I've got some stabilizer on the back here, and whatever. As I understand it, Frank's going to he's stitching on leather to make a cover, iPad cover, I think is what he said. Um, but even if I were to try to pull this, it is not tearing out. And I'm speculating that the reason that is because the smooth fibers are working with the back fibers. And I don't know if anybody's ever uh, looked at leather and suede closely, but the flesh, just like how do I want it? It's the fibers go in all kinds of directions. Hello, Cindy. Cindy, I know you're working hard out there. Thank you. Thank you for being here today. Just, go change a needle on the machine, whatever you need to do. I'll try to be as descriptive as I can in my conversation here. Okay. Anthony has a question. Hello, Anthony. No, I honestly, Anthony wants to know what needle I used. Um, and yes, I have failed to answer that question. I used a 7511 sharp. Ta-da! Yeah, everything is standard. I did a 40 weight thread, 7511 needle, cutaway. Well, then get off the phone, girl. And Letty, I'm sorry for the big pause. Letty's saying, "Oh, I'm going to try to stitch that stocking design out now." You got this, girl. It'll be beautiful. Of course, you have to show it off when you're done. Um, Everything was standard. Everything was default. 40 weight thread, dot 40 density. I did use a double tatami underlay, 7511 needle, cutaway, cutaway stabilizer. I want to suggest the cutaway because you're not going to remove it. It is going to become part of whatever project you're building. Okay. So yes, there was a question. Oh, I want to go back a second. Remember I said I had some question about the stitch angle of the stitch out? Let me see if I can find that picture for you. And yes, and we're going to enlarge that one. This was, the file came to me with a 60-degree stitch angle on this, this particular element. I thought maybe we could do better. So better with the density, better with the stitch angle. So I went back to a default standard 15-degree stitch angle. And then I started playing with the densities. This is the original piece, 60-degree stitch angle with a dot 40 density. And then I used a 40 density, a 35, and a 30, all with a 15-degree. And I have to say, that 60-degree stitch angle with the tatami fill gave us the best coverage. Now, of course, if you're going to stitch on leather, do a little test for yourself. If you're going to use tatami, check the stitch angles and do what is best for your project. Okay, now that we've got that, let's talk about one other thing. We know that tatami is going to work. We know that the run stitches are going to work, whether it's a single, a triple. I even used a back stitch on one, like the back stitch. The back stitch was nice because, it gives just a little broader definition to the threads. Okay, so where to go? Did somebody see my satin piece? Oh, here it is. Okay, so the one thing that was not in the design file that Frank sent me was a satin stitch. So I did just a simple curved satin. Here we go again. Going to enlarge this because it's kind of tiny. And okay, so this one is a satin stitch, and this one is a satin stitch. Both at a density of, I believe they're both at a density of 0.36. Oh, I see what I did here. I make notes on my samples because you can't always remember what you did on something, even just a few days later. Okay, so this green one right here, I also put a triple back stitch behind it or next to it just to clean up the edges because I like a nice clean edge. They're all 60-degree. They and this is the same design file above it without the back stitch around it, and then this is the one with the back stitch. Okay, going back to the satins. Satin worked good too. Again, I can't tear the thing apart. Now this one was a smaller, guess it helped here. This one was a smaller piece of leather. So what did I do? I used some spray adhesive. I If you've ever worked with rubber cement, they tell you to put a layer of rubber cement on one side and then put a layer on the other side, let it dry for a few minutes. And then when you put the two together, they become near impossible to pull apart. Well, using that same concept, I put some spray adhesive on the back of the leather, some spray adhesive on the stabilizer, and I laid the stabilizer down first because it's already flat. And then I just laid the leather over the top of that and I smoothed it out so that it was stuck to the stabilizer in a flat, smooth way so that I could put this in the hoop. And, again, it's an odd shape. So it's not like the hoop caught all the corners or all the edges of the leather, but it did catch all the edges of the stabilizer, which, I trimmed off here. So again, stitches the satin really well. Now, you know what happens when you stitch leather. You poke holes in it. Now with fabric, woven fabric, knit fabric, it's made using yarns, threads to weave together to build a layer of fabric, which means that there is a place in between those weaves that's an opening that a needle can penetrate through. You don't have that with leather. There's no opening in here. Yes, I can make an opening. Oh, look. Now we have an opening. But naturally, there's no opening in leather. So we're going to stitch 10,000, 9,000, 11,000 stitches. And then we go, oh my, that was the wrong stitch. I didn't want that satin stitch there. So with fabric, you just take your handy dandy seam ripper and you go to the back, especially if you're removing a satin stitch. Satin stitch is the easiest one to remove. You just take your seam ripper and put it up the back of the satin where the bobbin thread is, and you just cut it, right? And then you turn back to the front and you can just take the point of your seam ripper and you can just pull that thread out. Yeah, all right. Of course, it leaves the underlay because the underlay is a whole different set of stitches. And then you just kind of, pick and pull and pull and pick and pull. But there's a problem with that. Here, let me see if we can show you. Yep. There it is. Let me make it bigger. Maybe one more because we just want to focus on the satin stitch. You ready, Freddie? Here we are. Yep. It leaves holes. Every needle penetration makes a hole. And when you pull that out, you can't steam the leather to close up the holes. You can't rub it hoping that the holes will go away. Once you poke a hole in a piece of leather, it's there forever. You could probably, I know from my personal experience working with leather years ago, if I wet this, the fibers in the leather will expand, but that piece of leather where you've wetted it will never be the same. Even when it dries, it'll dry really hard. The holes will still be there, but they'll look to be smaller. They'll still be there. But you cannot, when you're stitching with leather, you need to make sure that your every move is precise and correct and exactly what you want. Because if you try to remove those stitches, you are not going to be happy with the result. And then you're going to have to start over. And again, this stuff is kind of expensive. I know somebody, Letty, right? Letty, you said that you have some that you have purchased a while ago and you've been saving it for a special project. Yeah, Letty's saying you could probably patch it with a repair compound, but that would be a mess. It still would not, it still will show the patch. How are you going to retain the texture? This is a textured leather. If I put a compound on it, it'll either be too bulky or it'll be smooth. It'll still show. Yeah. Here you go. Lady's saying she's got a couple of $100 in her stocking leather that she's been saving for this special project. You don't want to mess that up. So, where are we? Are there any questions? Do you have any questions about doing leather? Do you have any questions? One thing I want you to be aware of. Lady says that there is a repair kit that has a texture, but you're right. It will still show to some extent. And I'm going to, false alarm. Sorry. Um, let's see. Uh, I can't type either. Lady says she can't type. That's okay. We're just fine. Typing, no typing. All right. So that's what I've got regarding leather. Next week, I have a book I'm reading. Want to see? I have a book I'm reading. It's a new author. I read a lot of business type content because, you just never know when you might need it. So I've been reading this new author. His name is Aaron Montgomery. Some of you may have heard that name before, but he has a book, The Fundamentals of Business Success. And I've been reading that. And I thought maybe next week we would talk about business resources, other books to help you build your business and help you understand what's going on and how it happens and what you need. So we'll talk about that. We will. We'll talk about it next week, Letty. Letty wanted to know how the book is. So far, I'm liking what I'm reading. Frank says that he spent $35 for a 12 by 24 inch piece of leather. 12 by 24. You know, that's only about this big by about this big. That's nothing. That's little bitty bits. So that's what I'm thinking about for next week. If you have any thoughts, questions, comments, um, if there's anything you want to talk about, send me a message. Send me a message on Facebook. Send me a message to my email. Send me a message through YouTube. Quick2stitch.com is my website. You send a message there. But I will be here. Alrighty? Have we got it? Did we cover everything? All right. I'm going to say goodbye now. Of course, I got to find my little clip. Here we go. Wasn't that fun? Do you have more questions? Do you want to learn something new? Join me at quick2stitch.com for coffee and conversation, and we'll talk about it. Embroidery machines, designs, and business. Hope to see you soon. Bye now.